Hi, this is my first attempt at using the Battleground rules with Warhammer miniatures. In this game we have 2,000 points of dwarves and 1,987 points of orcs and goblins using the Battleground system. The Battleground system uses cards to replace the miniature units to make the game compact, easy to set up, and cheap to play, but I wanted to use my miniatures with it. The stats for the unit are on the card, and as the unit gets beat up, you mark off boxes. When you get into the yellow, you have to take a morale check, and when you get into the red, you have to take morale checks too. You use the circle to mark down orders for the unit. I'm not going to get into how to play the game so much as just showing what you can do with it in this video. In the game, there are command cards that you can use to modify your attack abilities and the defense. There are different ways of getting them, and this is what one looks like. When picking units, we used only the units that were comparable to Warhammer units and that I had miniatures for. Here's a front view of the different units, and it shows their own special rules. Here's a view of the dwarf line. We doubled the size of and distances used for Battlegrounds here. For this experiment, not all the units are consistent. In the future, I'll make trays that are 5 inch by 7 inches, which will be double the size of one of the unit cards for Battlegrounds. The farmost left units are 2 dwarf warrior units. Then we have the miner unit. Behind it is a longbeard unit, and next to this is the hammerer unit. On the right flank, we see the hammers again, then a bolt thrower, then dwarves with great weapons, and then a unit of militia, which I used dwarf spearmen I have that are very old. A view of the orc line. From right to left, you have an orc spear unit, wolves, trolls, goblin spears, and orc sword unit. Continuing down the line, we still see the goblin spear and the orc sword unit, and then we've got more wolves and more 2 units of orc spear. In the future, we won't put the cards on the table, but we wanted to put the cards next to the units just to make it simpler and faster to look. Since the orc player had less points in his army, he got to choose to have me move first. I only had one thing to shoot, and that was the dwarf ballista. I chose to keep my troops in a line. Battlegrounds is a game that's fast and uses a lot of maneuvering. It was a mistake for me to do this. I believe the orc player saw that my left flank was kind of weak, and he decided to try and move his troops on that flank to... Here's another view of the left flank, and you can see all the orc units moving up. Those trolls are particularly hard to knock out. On the right flank, there's not too much happening here. He's keeping his units back, and I'm just positioning for when they're going to come in. And in this picture, you can see the wolves are moving around to try and hit me in the flank or rear, and the trolls are coming up the hill. One advantage of playing Battlegrounds with just cards in flat terrain is that you don't have the problem I have with that hill, where you see the trolls won't fit on there correctly and they're sliding. Still nothing happening on this flank. Okay, this is very bad. Both this wolf unit and troll unit have hit me in the sides. In Battlegrounds, there's a rule called pinching, and that means if 2 units or more contact the same enemy unit, then they both get advantages. My dwarf unit there gets destroyed. In the following turn, the other dwarf unit comes in contact with the trolls, and the unit next to it, the miners, move up and contact the orc unit with the swords, with the red banner. Looking to the right, you can see that he's still trying to pull another orc unit into that big massive fight. So everything's kind of going to that left flank. In the middle of the dwarves, hit an orc unit, the sword unit that had been hit with ballistic fire before, and they should have been able to destroy it, but they run into some bad luck, and the orcs not only are not destroyed, but they also don't run away, and so these dwarves get hit in the side and with the goblin spear and are pinched, just like the last unit. You can see those wolves are also coming around and hitting me in the rear, so basically the orc player is rolling up that flank. On the other side, the orc player is still trying to get that unit over there to help out, but I've kind of started countering it with the big hammer unit in the middle. The last orc spear unit finally comes over that hill, and I'm going to meet it with those great weapons. The militia unit on the side is a light dwarf unit, and I'm content to let it play little footsie games with the other set of wolves that are over there. And here you see the minor unit's been destroyed, and the Longbeards have filled that gap and are trying once again to destroy that orc unit. My hammer unit manages to keep the other orc unit from slamming into the side of the Longbeard unit. And the right flank continues to move slowly along. One thing to mention is that cavalry units are a lot more dangerous in this game. They're often very fragile, but they can do a lot of damage. Okay, the Longbeard unit finally destroyed that unit. However, it just took too long, and the goblin spears are able to contact it and pinch it along with the help of the wolves riders. So it's also now in trouble. My hammer unit hits the side of the other orc spear unit and keeping it from hitting my Longbeards and doing it some damage. On the other flank, the orc unit finally moved up far enough that I hit him, brought my great weapons up and hit him. And then once again, the wolves are just basically dancing around with that militia unit. On my turn, the Longbeards break and run. On the orc turn, he moves up his goblins and his trolls, and they overrun the Longbeards and destroy them. So far we've played, at this point, 2 hours and got in 7 turns, which is absolutely fantastic. Very fast game, very fun game, even though I got my rear end kicked in. Okay, here we just have a little information about the game. Here's one of the supplements called Kingdoms, and this one here is just full of scenarios so that you can randomly pick them, and it also gives the terrain, so it's a very helpful aid. Battlegrounds is a cheap game to get into. Each army only costs $30 or $40, and the rules are included in with each army. And if you don't want to play with miniatures, then basically you just use the cards, and it's very easy to do. You can play it at Denny's, or just take it out on your kitchen table, and it takes 20 minutes to an hour and a half to play. Very fun. Another beautiful thing about this game is that they also have a historic set, the Punic Wars, which it gives you Romans and also Carthaginians, and you can use those against your fantasy armies. So you can play historical against fantasy. Thank you for watching.